Shining Armour's Amour's Armour by Loganberry. Read by Loganberry. The great kitchen in the Crystal Castle was currently, thanks to extensive maintenance work, the only kitchen in the Crystal Castle. This was awkward not merely because hot food was usually stone cold by the time it reached its destination, but also because the kitchen was so distant from the royal dining room that the serving ponies needed to bake iron rations for themselves in the hope of reaching the meal's recipients before reaching the end of their strength. In desperation, Princess Cadence had taken to flying to the nearest Griffinese takeaway from her bedroom window. Right now, however, the kitchen seemed a happy place, although the cheerful singing that was echoing around its walls was not to the liking of every pony there. Do you know the weight of armadillos had been quite bad enough, Rarity felt, and Amour was worse. But as for this one, well, like a big pizza pie, that's Amour, eh? The current baker, also, as she reminded every pony, the current baker, and therefore the current baker, was in her element. She giggled loudly, just to underline the point. "Pinkie Pie," Rarity scolded, "don't be so impolite. You know perfectly well that Princess Cadence prefers that we not use that name. Besides, she is most definitely not like any sort of pie. She has great grace and perfect poise as befits a pony princess, and we would all do well to remember that before we go singing vulgar songs in her own castle. In any case, I am sure that a member of royalty would not be seen dead eating pizza pie in public. I dare say the likes of Rainbow Dash may enjoy it from time to time, but—" she sniffed. "Those in the loftier echelons of society do have rather high standards." A vision of Princess Twilight Sparkle tucking into a triple hayburger with extra spicy oat relish swam before her eyes. She swatted it away irritably. On top of which, don't you think the line, "the moon hits your eye," is rather unfeeling towards Princess Luna? "Oh, come on, Rarity, I'm sure she'll be cool with it," Pinkie said. "And Princess Cadence. I mean, who wouldn't want a perfect pizza pie, especially one with extra peas? It's good and tasty and each taste of goodness, and if a pie can't bake a pie, then no pony can." She was silent for just a moment. "Well, except maybe Applejack, but Applejack's kinda pie-ish anyway, so it's all good, like I said. It should be just about done." There was a brief metallic scraping sound. "And here is my pizza, ah?" Rarity excused herself, suddenly recalling an urgent appointment with a tapestry needle. Elsewhere in the palace, in the sumptuously furnished royal bedchamber itself, another type of game was taking place. Prince Shining Armour was attempting to impress his wife with the depth of his knowledge of the chivalry of courtly romance. As said spouse was the Princess of Love, that was probably something of a losing bet, he realized. Still, he persevered. "Amore, mon amour," he said, in what Cadence imagined, probably correctly, to be a truly preposterous attempt at an upper-class French accent. "Wherefore art thou, amore?" "Because that's my name, Shiny," Cadence answered shortly. She covered her mouth with a forehoof and pretended to stifle a laugh. "Well, it's one part of it anyway. I'd really rather you called me Katie, though. You know I like it when you do. I like it a lot. But if you don't want to, then I suppose Princess would work too." "Princess?" Shining Armour was taken aback. "Seriously? Well, it would be accurate at least, if a little confusing and potentially embarrassing for poor Twilight. So perhaps you prefer to call me Queen?" She let out a hissing cackle for a moment, then winked. Her husband gagged. "That's not funny." Cadence slumped slightly. No, it's not. I'm sorry, Shiny." "Aw, don't I get anything else?" Cadence bit back a sharp retort when she noticed the glint in her husband's eye, instead letting out a giggle. "What was that for?" Cadence pouted. "Can't a grown mare be allowed a little innocent giggle from time to time?" Shining Armour moved slowly closer until he was brushing against his wife's side. "Grown mare?" He ran his eyes hungrily along the curves of Cadence's flank, bringing them to rest on her cutie mark. "Oh yes, most definitely that. But innocent? You're not going to get away with that one, Katie. And no changeling's going to take you away either." He aimed a short blast of magic at the bedchamber's door. There was a very definite click. "There, mon amour, a more interesting fate awaits you. Princess mi amore cadenza, you and I have some very serious making up to do." He bundled her onto the bed, eliciting a giggle that even Cadence could not have claimed was innocent. 3 seconds later there was a ping. Cadence's horn flared briefly, a light blue splash of colour in the darkened room. There was a rapidly fading whoosh. Shining Armour sighed. Let me guess, our Mare of the Sun herself? I'm sorry, Shiny. Cadence extracted herself from her husband's arms and sighed as she got to her hooves, magically tidying up her mane as she did so. Now I've acknowledged Celestia's message, there's nothing I can really do about it. One of the princesses has to be there for Armageddon, and the others are all busy right now. Armageddon? Shining gibbered as he heaved himself off the bed. No, love, Cadence replied calmly, gathering up her tiara. Not Armageddon, Armageddon. 2 different things that sound nearly the same. It's like Shiny and... She screwed up her eyes in concentration for a few moments. And Shinty. Shinty? It's a game, a bit like horse hockey, but on grass. They play it a lot in... what's that dark place with all the cliffs north of Trottingham called? Tartanrus? Said Shining Armour. One thing about being captain of the Royal Guard these last few years, the prince later reflected, was that his reflexes had been honed to perfection. At least, if not to perfection, then well enough to duck the brutal tickle beam that had immediately flashed forth on Cadence's horn. Missed, said Shining Armour. He stuck his tongue out. Cadence shrugged resignedly. I'll get you next time, Shiny, just you wait. Shining Armour didn't look too worried by the prospect. But, my dear Prince Whining Armour, Armageddon is a big jousting tournament, like a larger version of the matches they have at the Crystal Fair. It's very prestigious and historically important, so I'm going to need my full ceremonial armour for this. Where is my full ceremonial armour, anyway? Where it always is, dearest, in the armoire in the armoury. The what? Since when did we have an armoire for armour? Shining Armour raised a small sigh. The one we got from Mr. Davenport in Ponyville as an anniversary gift last year? You know, because we'd finally gotten him to understand that we really didn't need any more sofas. So he sent us that customized armoire he'd crafted himself from the finest words in all Armour. You know, that one? Where's Armour? I believe it's part of Northern Shireland. I've never been there myself, but I think I can remember Twiley writing an essay on it when she was a filly, which doesn't narrow it down that much, I know. Now off you go to the armoire and get yourself into that armour right away. Cadence huffed. Dearest, we have huge lumps of furniture everywhere you go in this castle. How will I know which one's the armoire? It's the one in the armoury, of course. Also, it has a quill engraved on the lock. It does? And a sofa engraved on the key. Oh, don't owe me, please, Katie. I'm trying to help here. You told me you needed your armour, so I told you where it was. It's in the armoire in the armoury. The armoury, armour, said Cadence, absolutely deadpan. Shining Armour rolled his eyes and nodded. The armoury, armour, eh? Cadence thought for a moment, then giggled yet again, prompting her husband to put his head on one side and say, Now what? Well, if I were to hide in that thing, could we say it was Armour's Amour's armoury, armour? Shining Armour blinked several times and shook his head before starting for the door. I need a painkiller, he announced as he disappeared from view. As Cadence made another tiny adjustment to her barding, she caught a flash of movement reflected in the gleaming metal of the petrel. She turned to see a small colt standing in the open doorway of the armoury, gazing in wonder at the scene before him. The colt noticed that the mare was looking at him and started. Wow, Princess Cadence, you look just like a more armoured armadillo. He blushed. Hello, Pipsqueak, isn't it? Are you looking for me? Oh, well, no, not really. We're on a school trip with Miss Cheerilee. We're learning about the Crystal Empire at the moment, and Prince Shining Armour wrote her to say she could bring us here to see for ourselves. He sent her a map of the castle and said she could show us around some of it while we were staying. I sort of got a bit lost, and I don't know where Miss Cheerilee and the others have gone. I'm really sorry, Princess Cadence, he added, suddenly downcast. Cadence smiled and walked over to him, her armour clanking slightly with each step. It's all right, Pip. It's my fault I didn't shut the door while I was getting dressed. My husband really wouldn't like it if he found out I'd been quite so lax about armoury armament and armour security. She leaned forward conspiratorially. But we can keep my little lapse a secret between the two of us, can't we? Pip nodded, open-mouthed. Thank you. And since you're here now, I have another question. Cadence nodded her horn at the armoury's armoire. Shining Armour and I can't really decide what we should do with this remarkable piece of furniture, and we agreed that we'd see whether other ponies had any ideas about it. Her gaze shifted uneasily as she spoke. So what do you think we should do with the armor and the armoire? And for that matter, the armoire itself? You mean that big wardrobe? The silence lasted until Pinky appeared at the door, bearing a steaming platter of Pie's Pizza Pea pizza pie. The end. And here is my pizza, Have a slicer? Holy fuck, why am I trying to do this in somebody else's voice? This is the worst idea I've ever had. Amour, mon amour, he said in what Cadence imagined, probably correctly, to be a truly preposterous attempt at an upper-class French accent. Really? Come on. You're killing me here. I can't remember who decided on this. How? Okay, hang on a second. He wanted me to read this so he wouldn't have to. He bundled her onto the bed. He bundled her onto the bed. He bundled her onto the bed. Why is this hard? A blight brew, splash of clubber in the darkened womb. What even is this word? Okay, that's not helpful. Shinty, Scottish Gaelic, Camanach Yeoman. That's not anything like the... Oh my god, how in the fuck do you pronounce this goddamn word? And the armoire and the armory. Armory. The armoire and the armory. The armory, armoire. Oh no, how am I supposed to do this? I hate you so much. The armory, armour. Oh no. Could we say it was armor's armour, amour's armory, armour. Why would you do this? Oh no, why is this happening? That was torture.